How's it going, everybody? In today's video, we're going to be updating our Twisted Blades Trap Rogue build that we did a couple weeks ago. There's been a lot I've been able to test. I've leveled up a little bit more, and there's just a lot more gear that I've been able to get my hands on. And I feel like this build is a lot better now and is worthy of an update. I feel like the survivability has gone up way high as well, because the trap twisting blade stuff is already really good survivability, and then with these other aspects that I've been able to add, I feel like it got much better, and also our damage is still really good. I feel like this is much more prepared for pushing up the different nightmare tiers and also just running normal dungeons. So whatever you guys want to be using this build on, you can be doing that. Like I mentioned in our lightning sorcerer build that I put out the other day, we now have a website, so that's where all of these build docs will go. So if you guys need to like read through it, I can give a little bit other information. So this video is not 30 minutes long, so if you guys want to check that out, it'll be in the description. So hopefully I'll see you guys over there. But let's go ahead and jump into this build. Starting off with our different skills that we're going to be running with this build, we're going to be using Shadow Step, Dash, Poison Trap, Death Trap, Puncture, and Twisting Blades. Now, obviously, Puncture is just going to be for applying vulnerable, or if you guys happen to run out of energy between inner sights, you guys can use that to get a little bit back and use your next Twisting Blades. But most of the time, you are just going to be attacking with Twisting Blades. But Puncture is still nice to use with one of our legendary Paragon nodes, so our Twisting Blades can deal more damage. But Shadow Step is going to be really good. It's our only unstoppable. Also, it's going to be stunning enemies, and enemies that are stunned are going to take a lot more damage from us. Dash is very important. It's going to be very good for just one traversal and two escaping different big groups of enemies, even when you are not stuck in any sort of CC. And also, we're going to be dropping the smoke bombs at the end of our dash now for dazing enemies, and that's going to help out a ton. So you guys are going to be dashing a lot with this build. So our poison traps are going to be really good for just knocking down the enemies. So you can do a poison trap, death trap combo and just get those two cycling with our key passive. So overall, all of your abilities are just going to be spammed. Quickly running through our skill tree, we're going to be grabbing Puncture and then Fundamental Puncture up here. Maxing out Twisting Blades at 5 out of 5, and then also Advanced Twisting Blades for the cooldown. 3 points into Sturdy for the damage reduction, and then also 3 points into Siphoning Strike so we can get our health back. Main sources of survivability on this build. 1 point into Shadow Step, and then grabbing Methodical Shadow Step so we can stun the enemies. And then we're going to do 1 point into Dash. Right now I have +4 on my boots, so that's why it's at 5 out of 5. But we're going to be grabbing Methodical Dash. 3 points into Weapon Mastery because we're going to be using swords with this, so that's a free 9% X. And then over here, we're going to be grabbing 3 points into Concussive, so we get that increased critical strike chance. We're going to be knocking down enemies all the time with this build, so that's going to be active at all times. And then 1 point into Trick Attacks, so we're going to be dazing enemies, and then when we critical strike them, we're going to knock them down, and that's how we get that crit chance here. And also, we're just going to throw 1 point into Rapid Gambit so we can get our evades back a little bit more often. Moving on down to Poison Trap. We're just going to be putting 1 point into here and then 1 point into Enhanced Poison Trap. We're not going to be grabbing like any of the capstones for it. And then 3 points into Exploit and 3 points into Malice. In our imbuement section, we're just going to be grabbing 3 points into Debilitating Toxins. Obviously 1 point into Deadly Venom, but that's not really important. Just 3 points into Debilitating Toxins so we can make them deal less damage. And also 2 points into Alchemical Advantage so we get a little bit more attack speed when we hit big groups with our poison traps. Then we're going to max out Death Trap here. 3 points into Trap Mastery. That way we can get more critical strike chance against the vulnerable or crowd controlled enemies. Then 3 points into Innervation so we can make our energy last a little bit longer. 1 point into Adrenaline Rush so we can get down to Haste over here and get that increased movement speed, also attack speed if we happen to drop below that 50% max energy. And then our key passive, we're going to be using Exposure so we can just spam our traps over and over, and also we can be stunning enemies and deal more damage to them. Let's go ahead and run through our aspects really quick, then we'll go back through and look at the gear itself a little bit more. But starting out with our aspects on our helmet, we're going to be doing the one where you take less damage from crowd-controlled enemies, and also if they happen to damage you, you're going to gain some movement speed. Very nice for us. Also, we're going to be dropping smoke grenades at the end of our dash, and our cooldown is reduced for our dash for each enemy we daze up to almost a second with this roll that I have. So that's really nice on our chest. It's how we're going to be able to get into these big groups of enemies and start placing our traps. So you can dash in and then throw down your traps for free. And then dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has a chance to daze them. This is fantastic. It's how we're going to be keeping most enemies from damaging us. And then on our legs, basic skills grants 20% damage reduction. On the boots, we're going to be spreading our crowd controls around just so we can have more enemies CC'd. And then over on our amulet, we're going to have the stacking armor, actually. So that's going to go up to 75%. That's going to be a big bonus and very big survivability. On our rings, we're going to have distant enemies have a chance to be stunned. We don't really care about that part, but we deal 40% more damage to stunned enemies. Our shadow step and also our traps are going to be stunning enemies, which is very good. Also, critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed. You guys are going to have that going all the time. And then on our weapons, on our crossbow, you guys are going to have the Twisitng Blades one, where they orbit around you. And then we're going to have the increased crit strike chance against injured enemies, but also the crowd control duration while we're healthy. That's going to be very nice for keeping enemies CC'd. And then finally, we're going to have the Edge Masters, where we deal increased damage based on how much primary resource we have available. We're using Inner Sight, so when that's active, that's a free 20%. Big passives on our gear that we're really going to be looking for is cooldown and maximum life, at least on our armor. So like my helmet, I got that. On my chest piece, I'm going to have maximum life. On my pants, I'm going to have maximum life. On my rings, I'm going to have maximum life. So that is very helpful. That's why I have a little over 10,000 HP at the moment, and we can still get that higher. My rolls aren't too great on a couple of them, but those are very good options. And then on the amulet, big ones are cooldown, ranks to exploit. There's a couple other ranks you get, like weapon mastery or anything like that. And then also energy cost reduction is slightly nice, but not necessary. And then otherwise on your armor, just general damage reduction pieces are going to be very good. Boots, movement speed type stuff is always going to be good on our rogue. And then for our weapons, it's basically going to be crit damage, vulnerable damage, dex, and like all stats are basically what you're going to be looking for on all your pieces. So this sword right here is going to be your prime example. I do have one right here that can be that if I happen to roll vulnerable, but the game does not like me, and this thing's starting to cost a lot of money to re-roll, but eventually I will get this crossbow replaced. And then our gems on the armor, we're going to be running rubies, so we can increase that maximum life even more since we're investing so hard into it. The more maximum life we have, the more our siphoning strikes is going to heal us per crit, which is good. On the jewelry, we're going to have skulls, so we can increase the armor and then also stack this aspect even higher. And then on our weapons, we're going to run emeralds so we can deal the increased critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. Quickly, just so I explicitly mention it again before we go to our Paragon board, we are going to be running Inner Sight with this build. So just a heads up for our specialization. But on our Paragon, there's a bunch of different things we can do, but I'm just going to share with you guys what legendary nodes and glyphs I'm currently using. So let's go over the legendary nodes first. I have Cheap Shot, I have Exploit Weakness, I have Deadly Ambush, I have No Witnesses. Also, I have Tricks of the Trade down here. So there's a lot of different options, and it's going to be a lot of extra damage for us. Now, our glyphs, big ones are going to be like Combat, and then also I have the Exploit glyph, so everybody we damage just becomes vulnerable when we start fighting them, which is very helpful and one of the best glyphs in the entire game. Highly recommend those two. Otherwise, I am currently running Chip up here, so they start taking increased physical damage from me. And then also down here, I'm currently working on getting control going so I can deal even more to stunned enemies. Overall, I find this build a ton of fun. It's very good for just staying alive and pushing up your different nightmares. We just have so many different survivability pieces, whether that's actively increasing our armor, health, or just keeping the enemies from being able to attack us. All those things together just ends up being a very good combo, while we can also deal very good damage on top of it all. Like I said, if you guys want to go through the whole build, I will have a link in the description to the build doc if you guys want to check that out. Otherwise, I stream almost every single day over on Twitch, so hopefully I will see some of you over there. Make sure you guys are also subscribed to the channel for more Diablo builds. We're going to have an updated Shock Sorcerer build here very shortly. We've already made a big upgrade on that build that I just released a couple days ago, so keep an eye out for that here very shortly. But anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.